They called it the future of creation. On August 5th, 2025, Google stepped onto the world stage with a product that promised nothing less than the reinvention of imagination itself. Genie 3, the latest iteration of its generative AI platform, was unlike anything ever seen before, the first system capable of producing fully interactive, three-dimensional worlds from nothing but words. A simple text prompt could summon entire realities, photorealistic landscapes, bustling cities, fantasy battlefields, instantly. In the live-streamed demo from Mountain View, a Google engineer typed just 3 words into the interface Victorian train station. Seconds later, the room was swallowed by a digital world. Steam clouds hissed across cobblestone floors. Iron arches loomed overhead. A ticket clerk appeared behind a wooden booth and astonishingly responded to live questions in real time. The crowd gasped. Influencers whispered, terrifying. Tech journalists muttered, magic. The internet exploded. Genie 3 wasn't just another AI tool. It was Google's attempt to collapse the barrier between thought and reality. But awe is fickle. By the end of that week, the applause had curdled into suspicion. Behind the glossy marketing video and polished demo, troubling questions emerged. Questions about Genie 3's origins, its impact, and the hidden costs of summoning worlds from nothing. The first cracks came from the creative community itself. Artists and game developers, froze frames from Google's demo reel and began dissecting them with forensic precision. There was a mural design here, a rare prop there. Familiar details that didn't feel like coincidence. Some even swore they recognized elements straight out of their own projects. Google's press team denied the claims, insisting Genie 3 was trained only on licensed and public domain datasets. But when pressed for specifics, they offered none. In creative circles already weary of tech giants siphoning human work into their datasets, Google's silence was, deafening. Then came the twist that turned suspicion into outrage. Independent researcher Camila Ortega published an analysis showing that Genie 3's most dazzling demo environments bore an uncanny resemblance to assets from an internal Google VR project, one cancelled back in 2022. The implication was damning. The purely AI-generated worlds were not as original as Google implied. Instead, the company had quietly recycled its own abandoned creations and dressed them up as new AI breakthroughs, not illegal, not even unusual in Silicon Valley, but undeniably misleading. Google, refused to confirm or deny Ortega's findings. Sundar Pichai instead offered this broad, carefully crafted statement: Genie 3 represents a leap forward in creative accessibility. Our priority is empowering everyone to bring their visions to life. It was the kind of corporate reassurance meant to soothe, but honestly, it had the opposite effect. Because for many creators, the real question wasn't who gets to use Genie 3. The question was who will still be needed once it exists. By August 7th, #Genie3Ethics trended across X, formerly Twitter. A post from a freelance game artist went viral. I spent 3 weeks building a forest for $1,200. Genie 3 can make the same thing in 15 seconds. Tell me again how this empowers me. Replies poured in. Animators, set designers, VR world builders, all fearing their careers were on the chopping block. And those fears weren't unfounded. For every demo that wowed the public, there was another showing Genie 3 spitting out ready-to-use environments at a fraction of the time and cost of human labor. The flood of AI-generated content had barely begun, and already professionals were bracing for impact. But labor wasn't the only storm cloud gathering. On August 8th, Bloomberg published a bombshell. Genie 3's mind-bending visuals came with an equally mind-bending carbon footprint. Their analysis showed that generating a single detailed three-dimensional environment consumed as much electricity as running a high-end gaming PC for 24 hours straight. Multiply that by millions of users, and suddenly Genie 3 wasn't just a creative revolution, it was an environmental hazard large enough to rival small nations. Environmental groups pounced. Critics accused Google of greenwashing, hyping accessibility while burying the ecological consequences. The company's proud sustainability pledge, carbon neutral by 2030, suddenly looked less like a promise and more like a punchline. And then, just as outrage threatened to snowball out of control, the narrative flipped again. On August 9th, The Verge published leaked internal memos suggesting Genie 3 wasn't meant for the public at all, at least not yet. The documents claimed the platform's rollout was designed primarily for enterprise clients. Architects visualizing skyscrapers, directors pre-visualizing film sets, even military simulations. The consumer-facing launch had allegedly been fast-tracked under pressure from competition, most notably rumors of OpenAI's upcoming Codex 3D. If true, this explained the rough edges early adopters had been reporting. Inconsistent textures, frame rate drops, bizarre AI hallucinations where objects melted into nonsense mid-scene. Genie 3 wasn't a polished product. It was a strategic chess piece in the escalating AI arms race. But Wall Street didn't seem to care. Within 48 hours of launch, Alphabet's stock soared 6%, adding nearly $90 billion to its market cap. Analysts hailed Genie 3 as a potential new revenue pillar. Some speculated it would eventually be bundled into workspace subscriptions. Others imagined immersive YouTube ads generated in seconds. The market smelled profit, not controversy. Meanwhile, in the corners of Reddit, where game developers and three-dimensional modelers gathered, the mood was far darker. Users swapped tips on watermarking physical props before photographing them, an attempt to catch unauthorized AI training. Others discussed class action strategies, wondering if collective bargaining might be the only defense against platforms adopting Genie 3 wholesale, with no compensation to the creators whose work trained it. And then came the final twist, the one that honestly turned fascination into fear. Late on August 9th, cybersecurity researchers from ETH Zurich announced they'd discovered a vulnerability in Genie 3's multiplayer mode. By exploiting it, attackers could inject malicious code directly into shared three-dimensional environments. Imagine walking through a digital art gallery, only to have it quietly install spyware on your system. Or exploring a virtual marketplace that secretly harvested your data in real time. Google confirmed the bug and patched it within 48 hours. But the incident underscored a chilling truth. Every new layer of interactivity opens another door for bad actors. Now, the conversation around Genie 3 is no longer just about art. It's about power. Control over data, control over creative credit, control over the ethical boundaries of technology that doesn't just disrupt industries, it rewrites them. Some optimists liken Genie 3 to the rise of desktop publishing in the 1980s, a democratizing force that allowed anyone to create what once required professionals. Others see it as the first wave of an automation tsunami, one that could wash away entire creative professions in months, not decades. Google insists Genie 3 is simply a tool, and that humans will always remain central to the creative process. But history tells a harsher story. When machines can do something faster, cheaper, and good enough, industries rarely pause to let humans catch up. The printing press, the camera, the internet, they didn't ask permission, they simply reshaped the world. So the real question isn't whether Genie 3 works. It does. The question is what happens next, which industries survive, which creators adapt, and which voices get drowned in the flood of AI-generated worlds. Because in the end, Genie 3 isn't just an AI that dreams in 3D, it's a mirror held up to us, forcing society to ask, what do we value more, the efficiency of machines or the irreplaceable imperfections of human creativity? If this glimpse into Google's mind-bending AI shook you, tap like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell. Because the next big tech breakthrough might not just change the future of creation, it might change the future of us all.